What's up, guys? Welcome back and happy Friday. We made it through another week. So I was thinking today, more often than not, I assume my viewers are very educated when it comes to Corvettes and their Corvette buffs. They've been, tracking and looking at Corvette stuff for many years, decades, However, this video is more geared towards people that are trying to get into Corvettes or cars in general. Perhaps you're not even driving yet, and you're gonna be driving in the next few years. Maybe your first car is gonna be a Corvette. Or maybe you're coming from Ford and you know nothing about Corvettes, So I want to make kind of a fun buyer's guide, specifically for the C5, and I might do a C6 or C7 in the future. Yeah, this video is kind of long overdue. So I do a lot of technical stuff and trivia, but never really just what to look for if you're in the market and what you can expect. Hope that makes sense. But yeah, stick around if you like Corvettes or want to learn, the best way to go about purchasing one, what to look for, do's and don'ts, stuff like that. So let's go ahead and get into it. So I'm gonna go ahead and break this down, probably 5 parts, from your budget, your lifestyle, what kind of Corvette you want, what to look for on a Corvette, and red flags when buying a Corvette C5, and obviously they're all used now. So, all right, so we'll go ahead and start with your lifestyle and what kind of Corvette C5 is gonna suit you. There's a lot of questions you have to ask yourself. Is this gonna be a daily driver? Long road trips? Is this gonna be an autocross type car? Drag strip car? A weekend car? Those are all things you have to consider when you're thinking about buying a C5 Corvette. Now obviously, if you have a long commute in traffic, I would recommend an automatic, assuming you're going to use this as a daily driver. And there's nothing wrong with owning an automatic. I own a 6-speed, but I would own an automatic Corvette. I mean, people might give you shit, but whatever, it's your car. Is it going to be more of a weekend car, non-daily driver? In that case, the 6-speed may be the way to go. Is it going to be a track car? In such case, you wouldn't mind one maybe a little beat up, already has a lot of aggressive mods to it. If you want this to be kind of like a show car, those are things you gotta look at, weigh the mileage of the car already, who's owned it, how many owners it's had, etc. like that. So you need to think to yourself how you're gonna use this car. Like for me, mine's a weekend car. I might drive it to work once a week. Traffic's not too bad around here, so a manual for me was perfect. I didn't want a show car, but I also didn't want something clapped out. And I wanted a few mods done to it, and this was probably the best situation for me. Still enough left to do to it to make it my own, but a lot of the annoying stuff was already taken care of. And we'll get to that a little later in this video. All right, budget. This one's kind of dynamic right now because Corvette prices are so absurd. A year ago, it would be very simple. Any C5 you want, you can get around 15. The market is crazy, not just Corvettes. If you follow cars at all, between inflation, just inventory shortages, people are holding on to them. I don't know. Corvettes in general, because the C8 are just booming right now in prices. You can get a clapped out C5 for around 8K, a decent coupe, target top, meaning the top comes off. It's not a fixed roof coupe. You can probably pick one of those up, decent shape, for about 12 to 14. Again, you can look at 1,000 different sources and you're gonna get different answers for this. And depending on who you ask, if you're the owner, you're gonna think it's worth $30,000. If you're trying to buy it, you're gonna think it's worth 5. But these are kind of a good ballpark, if you will. A decent Z06 example, you're gonna spend about 18. A low mileage Z06, especially an 04 commemorative, you're looking at about 23. Probably get an 01. They're the least desirable of the ones. I have an 01. There's not really a huge difference. And I have a video on that as well. Yeah, a decent 01, you're probably gonna spend about 17. But yeah, for C5Z, between 17 and 24, you're probably going to spend. Coupe, you're going to spend about 12 to 16. Now there are FRCs as well in 99 and 2000 that are not Z06s. They're kind of rare, but you can pick one up for less than a Z06. They come in different colors. You cannot get it in yellow, and you're going to spend probably between 12 and 14 for an FRC non-Z06. So the market's kind of all over the place, and it keeps going up every week. I follow it. So if you got 20K to spend on a C5, you can get a really good example. That was a huge word salad, but yeah, 20K, you can get pretty much any C5 Corvette you want, any trim. All right, next thing you gotta ask yourself is, what type of Corvette do you want? Do you want a more rare type Corvette? What body style do you want? There's 3 variants. I kind of touched on this already, the FRC, which is the fixed roof coupe. It's got more of a notched, if you will, back end. It doesn't swoop like the coupe does. No roof comes off on these. They're fixed, hence the name. You have convertible option, and you have a Targa. which is the coupe, if you will, and the target simply comes off and you can stow it in the rear if you weren't familiar. Within those, there's all kinds of different types. So the FRC, you can get it just in FRC, not in Z06, or you can get a Z06, which is the performance one. But remember, if you do that route, the top's not gonna come off. That's it. You can cut it off. There's kits to do that. It's pricey, it's involved, don't recommend it, but you can. There's convertible options. There's pace car convertibles, which are very eclectic, kind of, not weird, but they're a special Corvette. They're kind of cool. It's, you know, they're interesting. And then I've touched on rare Corvettes in the past. There's all types of rare colors. There's a light purple, there's Aztec gold. You're gonna pay a lot more for that. And then you have the base coupe. The most common, probably a red base coupe with the wagon wheels. That's kind of the classic C5 look. The top comes off, so it's kind of like a convertible, but you have the hard top too. So those are things you got to think about. What type of C5 Corvette do you want? Oh, and also, if you want an FRC, they only come in a manual option, so no automatics there. So if you want an automatic, that kind of takes the FRC out completely. Hope that helps. Next, you got to think about what options are important to you. The C5 Corvette doesn't have a ton of options across the board, but there are some that might make or break your decision. Everything from a heads-up display, power seats, dual climate control, magnetic ride, a CD changer in the trunk. There's, I think, probably 8 or 9 different rim options between all platforms of the C5 Corvette. But a lot of those I just mentioned, if you're a DIY kind of guy, you can change it yourself. Some people don't like doing it, I understand. Another one is memory seating and mirrors as well. It's another option. And I'm sure I'm missing a few options on the C5 Corvette, but yes, think about, again, your lifestyle, your budget, and what's important to you owning a C5 Corvette. What amenities are an absolute must for you? For me, I didn't care because I was gonna change the entire interior, which I'm almost done. I mean, I got a freaking push button start now, you know what I mean? So you can change almost anything in the interior C5 Corvette, but it's also, some people just want to get it and that's it. I get that too. So think about that. What amenities are important to you? And that will, you know, affect the price as well that you're trying to pay. All right, so you finally found the C5 Corvette you want, what you're gonna use it for, and you found the right color. There's one down the street, maybe it's the next state over. You wanna go check it out. What should you look for? You wanna do a full surveillance of the outside of all your panel gaps. Now GM in this time period didn't have the best fit and finish, but look for inconsistencies in panel gaps on both sides. If one side you got, you know, 1/8 of an inch, other side's almost 1/2 inch, that's a red flag. Look for overspray on the bumper. Corvettes are unique to where they're fiberglass or fiberglass composite. Typically, if any body panel has been hit or dented, it'll spider crack. It's really hard to hide that, which is kind of a good thing. You want to check, you know, make sure your AC system works just fine, both passenger and driver side. Of course, you want to check all your gauges, check for a check engine light, make sure all your lights are working, operating on all your dials. Your radio, of course, is functional. All your switches work just correctly. Your turn signals. The flasher in this tends to go out. It's not expensive, but it's a pain in the ass. So if you notice that your flashers are flashing really, really fast or just stuck on one direction, be wary of that. And if it is broken, you probably drive the price down a little bit in your favor. And give the underside of the car a good look too. These are very low cars. People tend to scrape things up in the front. You'll see 2 kind of handle looking things. Those are meant to get kind of scraped up. That's okay. But look for any body damage underneath. Anything that looks kind of out of place or inconsistent. Front, there's some ducting, and in the back too for the Z06 for the brake ducts. Make sure all that's still intact as well. Hasn't been messed with, it hasn't been blocked off. And a lot of this will tell you how well the car is taken care of. Were they careful over speed bumps or weird ditches or etc. Yeah, pretty much the underneath of a car will tell you how much they cared for it too while washing, especially the wheel wells, etc. The barrel of the rims is also another good example of how well they took care of it. If it's nice and clean, you know they really appreciated the car. That's something I always look for, and I always do the barrel of the rim at least once every other wash. That's just me, kind of weird. Under the hood, you're gonna look for the hallmark things like oil leaks, smell it coolant. It almost smells like syrup. One issue with these is the water pumps do fail. About 80,000 miles. Easy to fix, but hey, if it's leaking, that can work in your favor as well. Open up the radiator cap, look inside, make sure there's none of that stop leak stuff in there. I ran into that buying a car before. Check for a loose harmonic balancer. That's pretty much the pulley in front of the crankshaft. And if there's any wobble at all, that can also work in your favor. Be like, hey, look here, this thing's about to go. They do go. But once they're fixed, they're good for quite a while. Belt squeak can be a thing, but typically that can be rectified with any kind of pulley or tensioner, but also look at that as well. And obviously, if they let you drive the car, look for anything kind of weird, like a slipping clutch. Listen for the rear end whine, transmission noise, both manual or automatic. If it's an auto, any kind of slipping or stuttering or too aggressive of a transmission. Maybe a tune's been really aggressive and the transmission is totally toast, so be cognizant of that as well. Like I mentioned earlier, also look on the dash for any check engine lights, and if they're cool, see if you can hook up a code reader. Look for any stored codes or hidden codes, or if you can drive the car long enough for over 20 miles or so, and maybe they cleared a code, trying to hide it, see if you can get that code to pop back up. I'm not saying that's the case, but some people like to do less than savory things, and they're kind of crappy. So also in the rear end, in the middle of the transaxle, where the transmission meets the rear end, look for something called leaky butt, simply transmission fluid, or transaxle fluid, sorry, leaking right in the middle. That's also kind of a thing. If you have a nice bead around it, most likely it's been replaced, and it should be good for a while. And here's a list of a few things, a few upgrades, if you will, that you probably want to look for in a car. It's rare when someone's like, you want to make sure these have been done to it. That's not like a factory recall, but these are this kind of tribal knowledge things that C5 Corvettes should have had rectified, and it'll give you kind of a warm fuzzy down the road that these things tend to fail, and if it's already done, awesome. One being a tick master cylinder. You can find out if it's been done, but if the clutch has a nice firm feel to it, and if the helper spring is missing, chances are it has a clutch master cylinder. It is hard to see from the engine compartment, but on the driver's side, looking down underneath the clutch master cylinder, if you have a flashlight, you can see, I think it's made by Tilton. If you have a new one, the stock master cylinders are just crap, and they just go out, and I don't like the feeling of it. So a tick master cylinder is a must upgrade. So if that's done, awesome. Check to see, or ask the owner if the VATS has been disabled. I don't know what the acronym stands for off the top of my head, but the VATS is pretty much the security system. You can know if it's been done in either the passenger footwell. You'll have a jumped resistor on one of the pins. You'll see when you open it up, or you can't take apart the dash. Looking at it, if later on you open up the bottom portion of the steering column, you'll have a jumper right there. Another one is the column lock, and you can see if that's been done by a little module also in the footwell with about 4 wires on it, going to different pins in the passenger footwell. That's also a big one. It'll save you a huge headache later on when you go to move and you get a column lock error and the car is just bricked. You can't move it until you fix it. So that's another good one to have fixed already. Headlights have been upgraded, not only the brass gears, but the bulbs themselves, because in stock form, they're not the brightest, and the plastic gears, so I've touched on this in a previous video, they tend to wear. So if you have brass gears and updated LEDs as headlights, awesome, awesome upgrade. Another awesome thing to look for as well. Shifter, if manual, this isn't a deal breaker, but if you have an aftermarket MGW or even a C6 Z06 shifter, it's a much better option than the factory C5 shifter. It's kind of sloppy. Any name brand exhaust is also a good upgrade. This is the most subjective one of the group here. Mine came with a Corsa Extreme actually, but I wanted a Billy Boat, so I actually swapped with a guy for Billy Boat PRTs, which I actually like to sound better than the Corsa Extreme. Both are awesome exhausts. But yeah, if you got a Billy Boat, Corsa, a Borla, I would say awesome. The C5 Z06 stock titanium with headers sounds amazing as well. But any of those 4 configurations, I would say it's a good deal. And if the car is equipped with a HUD, make sure it's operational. They do tend to come off track, the mirror that is, and fall. It can be a huge pain in the ass to fix, but it's fixable. So check out the functionality of that, both up and down positions. You can kind of move it, make sure it works. Make sure you can see it during the day. The dimmer switch is not broken. And lastly, run the VIN while you're there. You can just Google the VIN and you'll get some hits. It'll tell you how many owners it's had, just a quick Google search. Any red flags you should look for. If you have a subscription to Carfax, use that as well. Or simply ask for a Carfax. And if they don't want to give it to you, that's kind of a red flag as well. Well, anyways, guys, I hope this quick, fun little informative video will help someone out there trying to make a decision on a C5 Corvette. Hope maybe you learned something, and any questions, like always, feel free to ask, and I'll get back to you in a timely manner as soon as I can. Well, that's all I have for today, guys. And I will catch you guys probably Monday or Tuesday. Actually, no. Probably Sunday I'll have a Mini Cooper video up. So look out for that. All right, guys, go enjoy your weekend. It's gonna be chilly here in the East Coast, but I can feel the warm weather coming and I'm totally excited. So anyways, all right, guys, later.